The foundation of the framework and the cadence of communication is important. And I look at it, my last analogy on this, as, marching to the beat of a drum. When, back in the day when they used to do, wars got brought out and they're the two sides battling, how leaders would basically get their troops in a marching rhythm is by the beat of the drum. Okay, and that's really important. That cadence of communication is the beat of the drum to make sure that you're following, if you will. In this case, if you're a gym owner, your clients, your team understand that flow and that rhythm of communication. So,
welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms. Here's your host, Bryce Henson.
Bryce, you do a great job of communicating to anyone you feel will be affected by a decision or an outcome. Can you share with us why you feel this is important and how do you go about doing this? Well, I think first and foremost, there's a framework of leadership that I follow that I've created and constructed in my mind that served me well, and communication is a big part of that. It's number one, having clarity. That's the first C. Number two is having courage. You have to have courage to take action to be a strong leader. Number three, you need to be able to create connection. Leadership is about creating connection with people, okay? Number four, the fourth C framework of leadership is communication. You need to be able to communicate as a leader, both verbally, both written, speaking on stage, on a podcast, whatever the case may be. You need to be able to communicate in a wide variety of modalities to be able to share your message and lead your people. And the last is consistency. So that's the five C's in the framework of leadership that I've built and really lived by. But I would say communication is absolutely foundational to your success as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and you need to be able to create a cadence of communication. So it can't be sporadic. Of course, you're going to be able to need to send targeted message at times, but you need to have a cadence when you meet with your team from a meeting perspective. What we run is a system called EOS, or Entrepreneur Operating System, at Fit Body Bootcamp, and we have L10 meetings, which stand for level 10, and the goal is to get a 10 out of 10 every time. The beautiful thing is we're able to provide feedback after the meeting and say, hey, what went well, what didn't. But that all said, we have a regular cadence of meeting structure. We have a regular cadence of email structure to our franchise partners. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, a broadcast that now my team basically creates, and I sign off on a mindset message, basically gets pushed out with all the updates of what's going on from our franchise or perspective on a weekly basis. That is a strong cadence of communication. We have a strong quarterly cadence of communication where we discuss and basically present, and when I say we, meaning me, to both my franchise partners, also a different quarterly state of the business, but also to our internal team. So that way, on a quarterly basis, both my franchise partners and also my teammates at HQ understand the big updates. And of course, it's consistent. It's on a machine. It's on a routine. And that provides a lot of value. So I wanted to start there because establishing a cadence of communication is really important. The other thing, actually, for that matter as well, is Bedros, B, as we know from my partner in crime in this particular podcast, he is the majority owner at Fit Body Bootcamp. Both him and his wife die. So I have a weekly cadence of communication that I send a quote-unquote owner's box email every Monday at 6 p.m. to provide both B and I the updates in terms of the franchise perspective. So I'm now showing many different ways that cadence of communication, it's so important. Of course, we also teach our franchise partners to do the exact same thing with their clients and their teams, to have a regular email sense of communication in addition to meeting schedule, so that way everyone in their organization is on the same page. And as a Fit Body Bootcamp owner, that framework and that playbook is provided to you. So that all said, the foundation of the framework and the cadence of communication is important. And I look at it, my last analogy on this, as, marching to the beat of a drum. When, back in the day when they used to do, wars got brought out and they're the two sides battling, how leaders would basically get their troops in a marching rhythm is by the beat of the drum. Okay, and that's really important. That cadence of communication is the beat of the drum to make sure that you're following, if you will. In this case, if you're a gym owner, your clients, your team understand that flow and that rhythm of communication. So that all said, though, the secondary level of this is I always like to loop in other teams and departments as much as humanly possible, because my job as the leader of the organization is I'm running air traffic control. Okay, it's not my job to fly the plane. It's not my job to sit in the crew. It's not my job to to, do a lot of the granular aspects of the business, all are extremely important. I have no idea how to shoot and edit video and make the marketing magic. My buddy Pablo does, and he does that incredibly well. My job is basically to run air traffic control and make sure everyone's on the same page. And that way there's no accidents, there's no collisions, etc. And effective communication, taking a step back, being aware of, okay, this decision was just made. Okay, we need to include this on the Wednesday broadcast. We need to include this in our L10 meeting. We need to include this X, Y, and Z. So that way it's distributed to the whole team, because the whole team has to understand and buy into your vision. They cannot buy in your vision unless they know the direction they're going. So that's why, from a thoughtfulness, from a communication perspective, it's very, very important. I certainly pride myself. Now, on the flip side, I'm sure some of my teammates, my biggest critique was like, Bryce, you probably over communicate, and there's probably things you send that maybe we don't need to see. And I probably could be guilty of that, but I pride myself on this. Very, very, very rarely in my organization does, when I'm working with a team or a client or a franchise partner, that they have no idea where this came from out of left field. And I pride myself on that in the spirit of strong leader. When you're leading your gym, your team, your clients, and your community at your local level, you need to have that strong cadence of communication that's built in the framework. And you also need to be able to run air traffic and control and make sure that everyone knows exactly the game plan is rowing in the same direction towards your particular target. Hey, my friend, hopefully you love that short teaser of the recent episode on the Fitness CEO podcast. To check out the full episode, it will be dropping shortly. But in the meantime, there's some other episodes around here that you need to see.